Baby Jumbo, look at me. Do what I do. Blow. No, not the feather. Your ears. Blow.
He thinks it's a game. Let me have a turn.
Just add atmosphere.
That's the sound of Colin Farrell pouring water into his glass. There was
Intrigued?
Yes, very intrigued. It was a clip from Dumbo, and then Colin Farrell live pouring water into his glass.
I
How
promise
are you,
it gets more interesting. I'm well, Simon. How you doing?
You're looking very well.
Feel okay, man. A bit tired, a bit jet lagged, but I'm all right.
Yeah. Well, you've been working very hard, and Dumbo is the new movie. Holt Farrell is this new character. So this is Tim Burton's Dumbo. So tell us about Holt, first of all, because he's an interesting guy.
We meet him at the start of the film. He's just come back from the front lines of the First World War, and he's returned to a life that he doesn't really recognise anymore. He doesn't recognise himself in that life. He has lost his left arm. He's an amputee in the war, and he's also been scarred in whatever way, psychologically or emotionally, by the things he's seen. And he comes home to two children who, for the 2 years that he's been absent, have been raised by the circus because their mother, Holt's wife, has passed away while he was gone. And so he's at odds with his life, and he doesn't know how to be a parent, and he doesn't know where he fits in. He was one half of a double act of trick riders. Him and his wife were trick riders, and they had an act called the Stallion Stars. But since Holt has left, the circus has fallen onto hard times, and Danny DeVito, who's the impresario, the owner of the circus, has sold all my horses. So
thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Danny.
thanks, Danny. I'm left shoveling elephant poo, basically, and that's my job. So it's just one shame and one embarrassment after another for Holt at the start.
Yeah. One look at Danny DeVito and you know that he's sold your horses.
Yeah,
There's no way that he's kept
not
them
to be trusted.
just in case.
Yeah.
It's quite a dark opening, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
Dumbo's an interesting story because if you see it as a young kid, I'm talking about the original, really.
Yes.
It takes you into some tricky places.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I mean, there's this indelible cruelty that's at the centre of the film, you know, and it does testify to the darkness in the heart of man. The original, for sure. And also in the heart of the animal. I mean, you know, they anthropomorphise the elephants in the original in a way that I don't think we do in this, but we also show in this even Dumbo's own breed, the elephants, when they see his ears for the first time, kind of become irate and aggressive and start stamping on the ground. But at its core, it's a film about loneliness, I think, and about belonging or not belonging and the struggle that happens between those two things.
Would you call it a remake?
Literally, Simon, I'd say 35% of it is a remake or reimagining, because there are certain thematic things that were explored in the original that aren't, thank God, have been shown to be not quite appropriate in how we perceive today's world. But I would say 35% are reimagining, remake, and then 65% of it is a brand new film, because there's this whole human component, as I said, the story between my character and my two children, played by Nico and Finlay, that wasn't in the original. Danny's character wasn't in the original. Michael Keaton's character. There's this whole story that revolves around these human beings as well that wasn't part of the original.
Tell us about working with Tim Burton.
He's a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you interviewed him through the years?
I have interviewed Tim Burton
he's
quite
a
few
dream,
times.
man.
Yeah.
I just loved him.
Is that why you got involved?
Yeah, more than anything. Yeah. I had never seen Dumbo as a child, but I was aware of the Dumbo character and kind of the iconoclast element to, you know, the idea of a baby elephant with huge ears that was able to fly. But yeah, working with Tim, he's so engaged in every aspect of the process. He comes at the stories that he makes seemingly from such a personal perspective. And I mean, every director inevitably and actors inevitably do, because you can't avoid the fact that you depart the port called self. No matter how different a character may be you play, you're always leaving from yourself, so a part of yourself will be in that. But Tim seems to come at storytelling from such a personal perspective, and that's why I believe he's, you know, it's no secret he'll talk to you about being an outsider when he was a kid in school and how much he didn't have friends and he felt outside of the community experience. And all his characters, whether it's Pee-wee in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Edward Scissorhands, Ed Wood, Holt in this, Dumbo, the quintessential outsider, you know, so to feel that much heart in a film that costs whatever this film costs, it was an arm and a leg, pardon the pun. But, to feel that much heart. Someone was asking me earlier, you've done a lot of independent film and stuff, and does this feel different doing a big film? And apart from the obvious size of the canvas and the scale and magnificence of the sets, at its core, you still have an artist, Tim Burton, who's struggling or curious as to certain really intimate questions that he has as a creator. So it felt not like the scale of film that it was.
What's it like being on a Tim Burton set?
Fun, yeah. I mean, colourful, chaotic sometimes, but organised chaos. You know, you feel a bit like you're part of a circus, a dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's, you know,
And also he has a regular troupe.
yeah, he has, you know, obviously he's worked with Michael a few times. He's worked with Danny a few times. He's worked with Ava now 3 times. So I did feel that there was this familial energy that I was just stepping in line with, and that was beautiful. And some people behind the camera as well, he's worked with a number of times. I get the sense that he likes to be surrounded by people that he trusts, that can take the work serious, but maybe not themselves too much so, perhaps.
Are you part of that troupe now?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm one and done or if there'll be another chance. But he was, honestly, Simon, he was just a joy to go to work with. I don't know that I've ever worked with a director that I've been a fan of as long as I've been a fan of Tim's. Like, as I said, maybe I was 12 or 13 when I saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and since then I've been a fan of his. So it meant a lot to me in that way, you know, as a fan of film, not just as an actor trying to maintain a career or any of that nonsense.
I guess it's fair to say it's fairly effects heavy, given as it's a flying elephant. So unless you're going to tell me you've actually discovered the flying elephant, this is an effects heavy movie.
Not yet, but we're still looking.
But that's why I asked you about the set, is because I'm not sure how much of it was physically there and how much has been added on after.
Pretty much anything that probably goes above 50 feet was added in after the fact. Like the top of the second half of the big top, the final big top in Dreamland, that huge Coliseum. The inside of the Coliseum was all real. It was extraordinary to walk into that Coliseum and see the seats around, and they had the bullpen, the VIP section.
So that was
where
real.
Danny...
The last Fantastic Beasts movie, which you're in, when you see big crowds of big people, you kind of assume
that was all
that's
real.
added
No,
on.
no. They'd bring in 300 or 400 people, and they, whatever direction they were shooting, they'd put them in there, and they'd bring... It was astonishing, really. Look, anything, as I said, above 50 feet or so, and the Ferris wheels in the distance, and you know, the sunset as the day comes to a close, and the birds flying across the sky as Dumbo's mother is looking out the cage and she's plaintive and longing for her son. All that stuff was put in after the fact, but all the immediate stuff that one could possibly interact with, tents, real grass inside, horses, Model T Fords, and it was all just there. It was such a magic experience, really.
How are you at one-handed horse riding?
I'm all right, man, because I learned, I was fortunate enough 15, 20 years ago to do a film where I got to spend 4 or 5 months with a bunch of cowboys, first in California and then in Austin, Texas. And sure, they were just drinking Coors Lights and roping all day. So I learned, because of the roping thing, you know, they're always riding with their left hand holding onto the reins, if they're right-handed, roping with their right hand. So I learned to ride one-handed. And the horse, power steering and ABS brakes, do you know what I mean? They're so well trained. I think the horse in this was Russell Crowe's horse in Robin Hood.
Oh, is that right?
So Russell more than
It's got its own IMDb page.
Yeah, exactly. It's a longer CV than me.
And real elephants?
No elephants.
No elephants
Never
at
met
all?
an elephant in the making of the film. Glad to say, yeah. They couldn't have done that, I'm sure. I mean, they would have had hell to pay, you know. So, but I think it was just probably not very advisable either. Elephants on Alexander. Elephants for sure on Alexander. They were some tricky days in the jungles of Thailand, but not on this, all CGI.
Yes.
And Ed Osmond, who is an actor who doubled for Dumbo, who's dressed head to toe in figure-hugging spandex, green, luminous spandex, God bless him. It wasn't the best look.
It's interesting how quickly attitudes change between...
Yeah. Honestly, like in Alexander, there was no questions asked of us. If you're working with elephants in Thailand circa 2003, 2004, they may not be being treated incredibly well, shall we say, you know, but there was no questions asked. So it's amazing. There's so many questions today. I'm getting at least every second interview, and I've done about 40, is asking me about, you know, the animals and what I think of the message in the film about animal cruelty and animal captivity, which I think is pretty clear in the film, where the film stands, but it doesn't feel tacked on. It doesn't feel like a moralist standpoint. It feels organic in the film.
I did wonder if you were going to sing at any stage, because the last time you came on the program, I can't remember the movie we were talking about. We ended up talking about Crazy Heart.
Oh, yeah.
And the other day I was just listening to stuff, you know, random music on my phone, and Fallin' and Flying came on, and Gone, 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 which I think is your solo. I was thinking, you were good. You know, that's a good country voice.
It was fun.
Yeah. I could imagine Holt Farrier just picking up a guitar. You know, he's a singing cowboy. You know,
I wouldn't mind of that, man. Yeah, I wouldn't mind of that. I had a bit of the tin whistle and Save Mr. Banks as well. It's fun, man, when you get to dip into the Crazy Heart was so much fun. I'm sure I'm repeating myself from a few years ago, but you know, just being around so much music all the time. That whole film was built around the spirit of country and western music, you know, and the outlaw sensibility, and there was just guitars everywhere, and those guys plucking away in the corner, and Jeff was plucking away all the time. He was his eyes on the prize at that stage, and he was singing and playing, and yeah, it was a joy to be a part of.
I did think Star Is Born had a little bit of Crazy Heart in it.
Yeah. Felt that a little bit as well. Felt that there was the same kind of shoe leather.
What do we see you in after this?
Did you see a film Columbus a couple of years ago at all by a filmmaker called Kogonada?
I did not know.
It's lovely little film, and he wrote this thing called After Yang that I'm going to go and do in New York. Small little character piece. So
we look forward to that. Colin Farrell can be seen in Dumbo playing Holt Farrier. Colin, thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon.